Now, this is interesting. This is Dr. Norman Finkelstein talking about what Gandhi says about nonviolence, resistance, and courage. Now, what he's informing us here is basically that nonviolence will not work for MRAs. I'm sorry, it won't. I'd love to use it if I thought it would work, but it's not going to work. Now, he'll explain why.
We knew the truth, the masses were ignorant, and we're going to enlighten them. Well, Gandhi has a very different understanding of politics. For Gandhi, politics is the people out there, they already know what's wrong. There are 1,000 things that most people, from the moment they get up in the morning to the moment they go to sleep, they're venting about, they're indignant about. That's wrong. That shouldn't be. That's not right. That
Exactly. So, for example, guys who go through divorce or pay child support, which is slavery, they know it's all wrong, right? But why don't they act, right?
it's unfair. That's how a lot of people go through each day, or in my case, go through my entire life, complaining about how everything is unfair or wrong or unjust and so forth. So for Gandhi, the problem was not that people were ignorant. That was not the problem for Gandhi. For Gandhi, the problem of politics is, how do you get people to act on what they already know is wrong? We all know 1,000 things are wrong. We all complain about 1,000 things that are wrong. But most of us, including yours truly, most of us don't do much about it. We don't get past complaining. And for Gandhi, the challenge of politics is, how do you get people to act on what they already know is wrong? Or as he puts it, how do you quicken the dead conscience into life? How do you get people to act on what they already know is wrong? And Gandhi's major insight, some of you may not think it's so brilliant, but actually the more I think about it, the more I realize he's right. He says most people will not act until they see others suffering. They have to see.
There it is in a nutshell. You don't have to go any further. People have to suffer, have to see you suffering. But now we're going to see why it will not work for MRAs. Here it is in a nutshell.
There's one qualification that has to be made to that. And no amount of nonviolence, however self-sacrificing it might be, no amount of nonviolence is going to get people to act unless they agree with your goal.
Exactly. And people don't really agree that men should have the same rights as women because people are hostile to men.
It's not enough that your means, your tactics are just. The broad public has to also agree with your goals, or your nonviolent tactic is never going to work. So what does that mean concretely? Well, you take the United States, about 50% of Americans, right down the middle, 50% of Americans call themselves pro-choice, and 50% of Americans call themselves pro-life. So if you were to do a little thought experiment, and you imagine the 50% of Americans who call themselves pro-life, they decide that in Gandhian fashion, they're going to gather en masse, descend on all the abortion clinics in the United States, and they're going to go on a collective fast unto the death until these clinics stop performing abortions. Now, nobody here can take exception to the tactic. It's the ultimate Gandhian tactic. You're not hurting anyone else. You're not inflicting bodily damage on anyone else. Quite the contrary, You're willing to give your life for your belief. But if you are pro-choice, anyone here would like to identify him or herself as pro-choice? Okay. Would that fast until the death move you? Certainly.
It wouldn't change my mind.
It wouldn't change your mind, of course not. In fact, most people who are pro-choice, they're thinking inside themselves, I hope they do go on a fast until the death. I hope they all drop dead.
Exactly. And this is why MRAs shouldn't bother at all with this nonviolent tactic, because it won't work. You know, if a bunch of guys go down, matter of fact, I'm going to prove it to you. Here is a case. American father self-immolates, protest against family courts. And he leaves a letter explaining exactly why. And his letter actually makes sense, right? The guy's name was Ball. Set himself on fire in front of the courthouse because he was done being bullied for being a man. And most men, matter of fact, men who deal with the family court system, not most, all of them know this. They're bullied for being a man. And so he set himself on fire. You know something? I asked a brother-in-law of mine, I said, did you ever hear this case? He said, no, I never heard of it. This is not going to get front page news. This guy burning himself alive, right? It's not going to get front page news. And the few people who hear about it is they're either not going to care or they're going to be happy. It's going to be like Finkelstein here said. That they said, oh, I hope all those child support paying fathers die. I hope they all burn themselves alive. And that's why nonviolence is not the way for MRAs to go. Because it doesn't work. I'm sorry, but if men want self-respect, they really have to do it themselves. And they're going to have to do it the non-violent way, whatever that is. It's not going to be harming ourselves because nobody cares about that. Well, actually, I disagree. Some people don't care and other people do care. They want it to happen, right? So I'm just letting guys know, for these reasons, Gandhi is a waste of time. Okay? Thank you.